a home in his bright city. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid.
Greetings. Michael Didier here. Glad you made it. You know, many people think I'm talking religion, teaching a new religion. I'm not. I hate religion. I'm teaching something different. You know what it is? I'm teaching kingdom. Kingdom. You can't serve two Elohim. Or many Elohim. That's what we serve. We serve in this United States, this America. Really, it's United States. We serve lots and lots of Elohim. We don't know it. We've been deluded into thinking that we're serving one Elohim when in fact we serve another Elohim entirely. Well, that doesn't change if you're in South Africa. It doesn't change if you're in Canada. It's always going to be like that. We're going to see today what happens. Actually, we saw it last week, but I'm going to review it today. What happens to fence sitters? Ones who want to serve two Elohim. You got to choose one or the other. All right, well, let's go and start a review quickly. My quicklies, I know I am not very quickly sometimes. We did 11 and 12 last week of Yasher. Babylon had just fallen. Many people had died, and Nimrod lost gobs of his people. They went into the four winds, to the north, the south, the east, the west. We saw where the 70 nations divided from in Genesis 10. We also saw it here in Yasher last week. But at this dividing, I missed a verse last week that I really wanted to comment on, but I skipped it entirely. This is it, verse 6. Call it verses. Does verse give it more credence? We talk about New Testament verses. We talk about verses here. It's a sentence. Okay, so if I say verse, use that in a very broad sense. Just because we're using it word verse does not give it more weight than anything else. Remember, if it doesn't agree with the law and the prophets, it doesn't work, does it? So let's keep that in mind. But in 6 of chapter, what did I just say that was? Chapter 11? Yeah. Chapter 11, it says this, and Nimrod dwelt in Babel, and he there renewed his reign over the rest of his subjects, everyone who is left. And he reigned securely, and the subjects and princes of Nimrod called his name Amraphel. Did you hear that? Nimrod is Amraphel. Ooh, cool. We're going to see Amraphel later on, and it's going to answer the mystery that we're talking about the four kings. This is the short-term mystery. We'll see it next week. The short-term mystery about the three kings getting eaten up by the star that comes from the east. Well, that has a short-term fulfillment, which happened during the life of Abram, and a long-term fulfillment, which is going to happen with Abram's seed. Oh my goodness. Saying that at the tower his princes and men fell through his means. Here's what Amraphel means. Speaker of judgment. Can also mean one that speaks of secrets. A sayer of darkness, or fall of the sayer. Something is going on that they gave him this new name. You know what? This strikes me as how did I put it last week? A derogatory name. Nimrod was the one who is the mighty one. But this Amraphel seems to have some derogatory understanding that goes along with it. You follow what I'm saying? This is what's going to happen probably in the last days with perhaps someone who's going to be the head of the flood forces, the strength of the earth's forces. Remember, those who follow Yehovah's kingdom, they dwell in heaven. Everybody else dwells on earth. That's what the good news is all about. Kingdom, kingdom, kingdom. You can't serve two kings. They're going to love this king when he comes up, but they're going to hate him when he goes down. When people begin to die. When the 144,000 are raised up and the earth is shaken. Ooh, it may not be a single man. It may not be, because remember, Israel is a group of people. I think that the opposing forces, I don't want to even call them Antichrist. If there's no Christ, there's no Antichrist. But is there going to be people anointed by Yehovah to be his rod, the axe in his hand against the rebellious people? Well, he uses the 144,000, the truly anointed ones, to be his shalach, his representatives, his sent one on the earth. The opposing forces, guys, are going to be disliked at the end. They'll be liked at the beginning, but they're going to be disliked at the end. And it's going to be the world that's going to kill them, just like it was Esau who finally kills Nimrod, Amraphel. Ooh, so much to see. Well, we continued on. We were introduced to Chedorlaomer, who separated himself from Nimrod and moved to Elam and ruled a kingdom there. He, with his army, went down to the 5 cities of the plain. Remember, we said they were Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Zor. 5 cities. He put them under tribute. They called it a yearly tax. And they served him for 12 years. We're approaching the end of 12 years as we finish our story today. But right now we're just starting it. This was the 49th year of the life of Abram, which is the 12th year. So we'll be looking at 49. About when he's 57 is when these people are going to come down to maybe even another year for that, because they have to stop paying, and then he's going to come down and deal with them. So it's going to be Chedorlaomer, led by Nimrod, the king of Elazar, and the king of Tidal, the king of nations, who's going to come down to the cities of the plain in another 15 years, maybe 16 years. At any rate, they served him for some time. So here we are, the life of Abram, 50th year. What is going to happen? He is going forth from Noah's house. Remember, he's been there for 39 years. Now he's going to his father's house in Babylon. But when he gets there, he realizes that his father has all kinds of strange gods in his house. They call them gods. Abram calls them images. He knows what they are. We have lots of images. The Catholic Church has gobs of images of wood and stone. We can see them carved on the tops of mountains. We have images in our minds of gods that we serve who aren't Yehovah. who are nothing more than images. Images, that's all they are. They can't talk. They can't hear. They can't see. They can't save you. You know what? Do you think that the people in Terah's time, Nimrod's time, same time, Abram's time, when they served their images, do you think that sometimes they said, oh, I know I got healed by my images. Look at, I prayed and I'm healed. Just like we do say about Jesus, Yeshua. But we're serving a different Elohim. Shame on us. And we're allowed this freedom of religion. Why? I like what Tom called it last week. I think it was Tom who talked about a bait and switch. I used it in my article this week. I liked it so much. They make you think you're serving this Elohim when in fact you're serving Obama. Check your wallet. That's the evidence right there of who you serve. You got a driver's license, got a social security number, building permits, whatever, marriage permits. They're all evidence as to who you serve. You ask permission for them to marry. You ask permission to start a business. You ask permission to drive. That's the evidence of their permission, because they're your Elohim. You think, oh, well, I serve Jesus, don't you know? No, you don't. He's an image. He's the modern day golden calf. We've learned lies. We either serve in the kingdom of the earth, Elohim, first and second commandment. Remember, first commandment, I am Yehovah who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. Then the second commandment says, you shall not make of yourself any images and bow down to them. Well, we have an image in our mind of Yeshua. The Catholic Church, they have it Mother Mary. They got the baby Jesus. Images, images, images. Put them away. Serve Yehovah. And this is the message that Abram is bringing to his father, and soon to Nimrod, and finally to all of Babylon. Wait till you see. So he swore, as Yehovah liveth, these images shall not remain in my father's house. He swore in the name of Yehovah. Look what he says. So shall Yehovah who created me do unto me, if in 3 days I do not break them all. This is swearing in the name of Yehovah, and you better do what you say you're going to do. Well, he did. And he put all these images. He tested them. He put meat in front of him. He's playing. But in the end, it says, and in the evening of that day, the third day, Abram was clothed with the spirit of Elohim. And he called out and said, woe unto my father and this wicked generation whose hearts are inclined to vanity, who serve these idols of wood and stone, which cannot eat, smell, hear, speak, who have no mouths with speech, eyes with sight, ears with hearing, hands with feeling, legs which can move. Like them are those that have made them and that trust in them. Oh my goodness. Well, Terah was so angry at Abram. He said this, what is this tale that thou hast told me? Remember, he told him, it was the big one. He was jealous because the other ones ate up all the meat before he got to it. And he went and got an axe and broke them up. And his father knows the truth. Remember, it was Nimrod. And Terah, remember, Terah, Abram's father, is the head of Nimrod's host, who first put together these images. Again, the bait and switch. think you're serving one Elohim when in fact you're serving another Elohim. Keeps peace in the country. And it keeps people away from Yehovah because we don't want them to go to Yehovah because then they'll go to a different kingdom. It's about kingdom. If you can keep them in their religion, that's where we have freedom of religion. They don't like us to have another kingdom, though. When you go to the different kingdom, then the courts begin to get angry, don't they? Well, look what Terah's response was. Is there in these gods spirit? Here we are. I'm sure it's Lavav, heart, soul, nefesh, power, me'od. Thou shalt love Yehovah with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your power. This is what he's talking about. To do all that thou hast told me? Are they not wood and stone? This is Terah. He knows what they are. He made them. And have I not myself made them? And canst thou speak such lies, saying that the large one that was with them smote them? It is thou that didst place the hatchet in his hands. He knows. Well, here's Abram's response. How can thou then serve these idols in whom there is no power to do anything? Can those idols which thou trustest deliver thee? Well, the answer was no. Well, finally, Abram went into that room and took the hatchet out of the big image's hands and crushed him. And Terah was incensed, so incensed that he went to his Elohim, his lawmaker and judge. He didn't go to his image to tattle. Why? His images can't do anything. But he went to his lawmaker and judge. Listen what he says. And Terah, seeing all that Abraham had done, hastened to go from his house. And he went where? To the king. And he came before Nimrod and stood before him, and he bowed down to the king. And the king said, What dost thou want? What? And he said, I beseech thee, Adonai, my master, to hear me. Now 50 years back a child was born to me, and thus he has done to my gods, my images. And thus has he spoken. And now, therefore, my master and king, send for him that he may come before thee and judge. Who's the lawmaker and the judge? And judge him according to the law, that we may be delivered from his evil. Well, what happened? First, they put him in prison. I didn't mark that one, I guess. They put him in prison for 10 days. No. First, he's got to talk to Nimrod. Abram's going to talk to Nimrod. He says, who's he? Does thou imagine that they can deliver, this is Abram speaking, does thou imagine that they can deliver thee or do anything small or great? That thou should serve them? He's testing him like he tested his father. And why wilt thou not sense the Elohim of the whole universe? Why don't you sense him? Who created thee and whose power it is to kill and keep alive. Remember those words. Who has the power to kill and keep alive? You know what? Nimrod thinks he's got the power, but he doesn't have the power. Abram says, O foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe unto thee forever. Well, those are fighting words, aren't they? Abram was then put in prison for 10 days. During that time, Nimrod met with his advisors, and they advised him to hang him on the tree. But finally, they said this: if it pleases the king to do this, let him order his servants to kindle a fire both night and day in the brick furnace, and then we will cast this man into it. Let's make an example out of him before the whole world. That's what they're going to do. And the king did so. He commanded his servants that they should prepare fire. And the king's servants, princes, lords, governors, judges, and all the inhabitants of the land. Who are all the inhabitants of the land? Many of you will think it's women and children and men, but it's not. Look what it says. About 900,000 men, almost 1,000,000 men, stood opposite the furnace to see Abram. This is the whole world that's coming before to see what's going to happen to this man who revileth the king. And all the women and little ones, there's the women and the little ones, crowded upon the roofs and towers to see what was doing with Abram. It says there was not a man left that did not come on that day to behold the scene. Can you imagine? Reminds me of Elijah on Mount Carmel. He brought all Israel, all the men to come and see whether their gods were God, were Elohim, or whether Yehovah was Elohim. Well, this is exactly what's happening right here. Who is Elohim? You reviled the king, Abram, and now you're going to be put in the fire. But just as they're about to put him in the fire, the conjurers and the sages realized who Abram was and said this to the king: "Our sovereign Lord, our sovereign master, surely this is the man who we know to have been the child at whose birth the great star swallowed up the 4 stars, which we declared to thee now 50 years since." Oh my goodness. Nimrod now realizes that Terah lied. And Terah is so scared that he blames his eldest son, the one who is 32 years older than Abram. It says this: "But Haran did not advise his father to do anything, for Sarah said this to the king in order to deliver his soul from the king. For he feared greatly. And the king said to Terah, Haran, thy son who advised thee to do this shall die." So now, because of Terah's lie, Haran is going to be put into the furnace with Abram. Haran, thy son who advised thee to do this shall die through the fire with Abram. For this sentence of death is upon him for having rebelled against the king's desire in doing this thing. But look what it says about Haran. It's just a couple verses, but oh, it's so important for you all to see what he says. And Haran at that time felt inclined to follow the ways of Abram, but he kept it within himself. You know what? You listen to me every week. Do you feel inclined to follow the ways of Yehovah? You can't follow the ways of Yehovah and still be in Nimrod's kingdom. We're talking about 2 different kingdoms. This is where Haran's at. Listen to what he says. And Haran said in his lavav, in his heart, "Behold, now the king has seized Abram on account of these things which Abram did. And it shall come to pass, if Abram prevail over the king, I will follow him. But if the king prevail, I will go after the king." This is exactly what they're going to do in the last days when the 144,000 are raised up. Are you going to run to them for safety? Or are you going to wait and see if they are saved first. This is what it's going to be about. But wouldn't it be better to leave now and become like Abram, one of the called out, sent people of Yehovah? This is what we can be today. But again, that was in his heart. He never put any actions to it. And as a result, when they went into the firing furnace, Haran died. But Abram walked in the midst of the fire for 3 days and 3 nights. Here's 1,000,000+ people watching Abram in the fire of Kasdim, walking around in his whitey-tighties. Can you imagine what these people must be thinking? This man has something that I don't have. That's what they're thinking. Most of them are still not going to follow Abram when he comes out. But we're going to see, finally, when he comes out, he sent servants to get him. He got trouble when he saw this man was walking around the fire. Nimrod saw him. Finally, and the king saw that his servants could not approach the fire, lest they should be burned. And the king called to Abram, "O servant of the Elohim who is in heaven, the Elohim who is in heaven, go forth from the midst of the fire and come hither before me." And Abram hearkened to the voice of the king, and he went forth from the fire and came and stood before the king. Who's got the power of life and death? And the Elohim of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, and who has all the power, he delivered me from the fire into which thou cast me. Well, Haran died when he was 82. When he was 32, Abram was born. 82 means what? Means Abram is now 50 years old. That's when he came into the fire. That's when he came out of the fire. What happens now? Look at this. And these things seemed very wonderful in the eyes of the king and the princes, that Abram was saved from the fire, and that Haran was burned. And the king gave Abram many presents, and he gave him his 2 head servants from the king's house. The name of one was Onai, and the name of the other was Eliezer. That's where Eliezer of Damascus comes from. Originally, he was born in Damascus, but he was taken and made a servant of Nimrod's house. And all the kings and the princes and the servants gave Abram many gifts of silver and gold and pearl. This is where Abram is getting rich. He's getting servants. Look at that. He gave him servants. There's the 2 he gave him, but he gave him more. Silver and gold and pearl. And the king and his princes sent him away, and he went in peace, going back to his father's house. And Abram went forth. Look at this. Oh my goodness. And Abram went forth from the king in peace. And many of the king's servants followed him. And about 300 men joined him. Did they come with their wives? Did they come with their children? Did they come with their servants? This is 300 men who are joining Abram, plus the servants that he just got from Nimrod. And Abram returned that day and went to his father's house. Must have been a big house. And he and the men that followed him and Abram served Yehovah as Elohim all the days of his life. And he walked in his ways and followed his law. And from that day forward, Abram inclined the hearts of Adam's seed to serve Yehovah. And at that time, Nahor, Abram took unto themselves wives. Okay, this is where Milcah and Sarai came from. They were the daughters of Haran. He's died. They're fatherless. We call them orphans. But we really don't even call them orphans because they probably still had mothers. Well, maybe they did. But what happened? They took them as their women so that they would be covered. But Sarah didn't have any kids. I always think that's funny. Here we are, 2 years after that. They're talking about Sarah, her not having any kids. Well, 2 years now, he's in his father's house. This is after the furnace. And what happens? The king has a dream. Oh, it's a really kind of a strange dream about a bird coming down and an egg and different kinds of things going on. There was an egg at the king's head and a great river came up. Oh, well, you'll have to listen to it next week to hear it. But this man, Anuki, is one of the wise servants of the king. And he said, this is nothing else but the evil of Abraham and his seed, which will spring up against my Lord, my Adonai, and king in the latter days. Well, they go through what they're going to do, and they finally decide that they're going to slay him. Why will not my king slay him, that his evil may be kept from thee in the latter days? Well, Eliezer's there. Remember, Eliezer is who? Abram's servant now. And Eliezer, Abram's servant, whom the king had given him, was at that time in the presence of the king. And he heard what Anuki had advised the king, and what the king had said to Abram. He went and he warned Abram. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Eliezer. And Abram hastened and ran safely to the house of Noah. So now, in the 52nd year, he's going to run to the house of Noah. He's going to be there for a month. The king's going to forget the incident, put it out of his mind. It says, and Abram was concealed in Noah's house for 1 month, and the king had forgotten this matter. But Abram was still afraid of the king, and Terah came to see Abram, his son, secretly. Terah is who? His father, but he's the king's head of the host. But now his affections are not for the king anymore. He lied. His son, his eldest son, was killed as a result of his lie. And now he's got to make changes in his life. He's coming to his son. And Abram tells him this. Dost thou not know? Hast thou not heard? It is not through love that Nimrod giveth thee all this honor, head of his host. It is only for his benefit that he bestows all this good on thee. That's what it's all about, folks. The world is not interested in your good. They're interested in their good. And if he do thee greater good than this, surely these are only vanities of the world. For wealth and riches cannot avail in the day of wrath and anger. He says, cast away all the vain things which thou pursuest. Oh, I could say that to every man in the world right now. Cast away all the vain things which thou pursuest, and serve only Yehovah. Build his image, build his kingdom on the earth. That is for storing up riches in heaven that will be available to you. We'll talk about more of that today, I think. And Abram ceased to speak when Noah and his son answered Terah, saying, true is the word which Abram has said unto thee. Well, Terah hearkened to the voice of his son Abram, and Terah did all that Abraham said. For this was from Yehovah, that the king should not cause Abram's death. And that's where we left off last week. welcome all of you who have joined us. And Terah, his son, took Abram and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, the woman of his son Abram. Men and then women. That's the role. That's what you see so often in Torah. We're seeing it here. Terah, Abram, Lot, and then it talks of Sarai, and then all the souls of his household. Who are the souls of his household? The nefesh of his household. He makes nefesh. Nefesh are men and women, both, who are servants, his servants, the souls of his household, and went with them from Kasdim. They were in Babylon. Remember, that's where the furnace was. Then they fled to That's where Noah is at. And now they're fleeing from there to go to the land of Canaan. And when they came as far as the land of Haran, they remained there, for it was exceedingly good land for pasture, and of sufficient extent for those who accompanied them. Who accompanied them? You know, in my weak little mind from listening to Torah, I figured it was Terah, Abram, Lot, Sarai, and Milcah. 5 people. But how many people are we talking about? We had 300 men who joined themselves to Abram. We had all of Terah's household. He'd been the head of the host for 50 years. Do you think he took his servants? Do you think he took his wives, the rest of his children? He had other girls. Unless he gave them away to other men of the land. But he had a huge house. Abram has a huge house. How about Lot? Did he have anything? We don't know that. But this is a large group of people. I would venture we're already talking 500-600 people. You think you could start a city with that? Not to mention the flocks that Abram has, the flocks that Terah has. Did Lot have flocks? I think he did. And the people of the land of Haran, okay, these are the people who are already there in that particular area, saw that Abraham was good and upright with God, with Elohim and men, and that Yehovah, his Elohim, was with him. And some of the people of the land of Haran came and joined Abram. And he taught them the instruction of Yehovah and his ways. And these men remained with Abram in his house, and they adhered to him. More people are joining themselves to Abram. What did we say? 300 men plus more servants, not plus their wives and their children, and if they had any servants, all are joining themselves to Abram. Now the people of the land are seeing that this man is different. He's teaching them the instructions. Look at this. The instructions of Yehovah and his ways. This one doesn't say anything about knowing Yehovah, but we're going to see that in the future. But these men remained with Abraham in his house, and they adhered to him. Abram remained in the land for 3 years. I better move this up. And at the expiration of 3 years, Yehovah appeared to Abram and said to him, how did he appear to him? Poof, here I am, pillar of fire. How did he appear to him? In a vision. He appeared in a vision. I am Yehovah, who brought thee forth from Kasdim, and delivered thee from the hands of thine enemies. And now, therefore, if thou wilt hearken to my voice, keep my commandments, my statutes, my judgments. We're talking about a kingdom. not Nimrod's statutes and judgments. Yehovah's commandments and statutes and judgments and laws. Then I will cause thy enemies to fall before thee, and I will multiply thy seed like the stars of heaven. I will send my blessing upon all the works of thy hands, and thou shalt lack for nothing. I will make thee a great nation. Well, we're going to get to this week, or get to this today. Oh, yeah. Well, here. You're probably, in your minds, thinking this very same thing. Genesis 12, 2 and 3. I will make you a great nation. He's just talking about making you the stars of heaven. As you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. But this appears to be the same event that's going on here, but it's not. It's still 20 years before. Abram is now only 55 years old. Remember? 2 years out of the furnace, he left Ur, and now he's been in Haran for 3 years. He's 55. Well, that's important because they have a mistake in this next verse. Arise now, take thy woman and all belonging to thee. What belongs to thee? All the souls of his household, and go to the land of Canaan and remain there. And I will be there, and I will be unto thee for an Elohim, and I will bless thee. And Abram rose, took his woman and all belonging to him, and he went to the land of Canaan, as Yehovah had told him. And Abram was, how old? 55 years old when he went from Haran. Always got to keep in mind, work it out in your mind. Always know how old everybody is, where there is. Know the time period. It helps you understand. We're digging for understanding. And Abram came to the land of Canaan. Here he is, 55, coming to the land of Canaan. We're not going to see him come to the land of Canaan until he's 75 in Torah. And Abram came to the land of Canaan and dwelt in the midst of the city. And he pitched his tents among Canaan's seed, the inhabitants of the land. And Yehovah appeared to Abram when he came. There he is now appearing to Abraham. In what? In a vision. And he came to the land when he came to the land of Canaan and said to him, this is the land which I gave unto thee. Funny they say gave instead of give. Give unto thee and thy seed after thee forever. And I will make thy seed like the stars of heaven. I like this. The seed like the stars of heaven. Let me just see if I can open this and make it a little bit nicer here. Those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament, seed like the stars of heaven, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. Okay, he's not talking about Gentiles who believe in Jesus, is he? He's talking about a kingdom that's turning men to righteousness, to follow his statutes and judgments and ordinances. You know what? Without acting arrogant, I want to make you like me. Follow me. Do the things that I am teaching you to do, and you can be great in Yehovah's kingdom. Okay, is that arrogance? Do you know any other men who follow Yehovah like I follow Yehovah? You're not going to find a driver's license, a social security number, or any state or federal numbers in my pockets. I live what I teach. Follow me. And follow men like me who do the same things. Follow men who have become Ezra men of Yehovah. Be fruitful and multiply. and then fill the earth. And we're going to do it in these last days. And Abram built an altar. Look at that. He's building an altar. Where is he building this altar? Abram built an altar in the place where Elohim had spoken to him. And Abram there called upon the name of Jesus. You're laughing at me. The name of Yeshua. No. The name of Yehovah. What does he say? Joel chapter 2. Those who call upon the name of Yehovah shall be saved. At that time, at the end of 3 years of Abram dwelling in the land of Canaan, in that year, Noah died. It was the 58th year of the life of Abram. Okay, we're just considering. Remember, he's been left in 55. Now 3 years later, Noah died. Look at that. Noah died when he was 58. He was so fortunate to be able to know a man who walked with Elohim. There's few of those men in the world. 950 years old Noah was when he died. Wow. And Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan. He, his woman, and all belonging to him, and all those accompanied him, together with those that joined him from the people of the land. So there apparently is some who belong to him, and there's some who joined him from the people of the land. What I see is a huge gate. Let's call it a gate. I wrote an article, Within Thy Gates. I see a gate. This man, Abram, is the head of the gate. He's directing, almost as you would, when we're talking in England. That's all I can go back to. I don't know history that well. But going back to lords and what would the common people be called? Servants. Lords and servants. Let's call them lords and servants. Okay, Abram is the head of this gate. All the people who are under his roof, as you will, his rule, if you will, are his servants. They all call him Adonai, just as everyone who was with Nimrod called Nimrod Adonai. These men all follow him. Their women all follow their man. Abram has female servants who follow him. Again, they're going to call him Adonai. I see a gate. Now, why did I tell you all that? I guess because we're talking about all belonging to him. No, accompanied him. All belonging to him and those who accompanied him, together with those who joined him from the people of the land. They're all serving him. Some are servants, some are free men, but they're still under his control, if you will. There's still going to be people who are born in his house. And you know what? There's been lots of people who have been born in his house. Now, no, probably not that many right now. Remember, he just came 300, and he's now 58 years old. At 52 is when he received those 500 or those 300 men who joined him in Babylon. Now it's only been 5 years, 6 years. There's children that have been born, but we're going to see 20 years down the road, there's going to be lots of men who are born in his house. But Nahor, Abram's brother, and Terah, his father, and Lot, the son of Haran, and all belonging to them, dwelt in Haran. Hear this? He's going out of Haran. We know it's not chapter 12 of Genesis because Lot's staying in Haran. And in chapter 12 of Genesis, Lot goes with him, doesn't he? It says, in the 5th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and all the cities of the plain revolted from the power of Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. That's what we saw back earlier on in our chapter, remember? So now we've got kind of the timeline down. For all the kings of the cities of the plain had served Chedorlaomer for 12 years and given him yearly tax. But in those days, in the 13th year, they rebelled against him. Remember, he's coming down, I think, in the 15th year. And the 10th year of Abraham's dwelling in Canaan. So how old is he going to be in the 10th year? He left when he was 55. Now he's going to be 65. And in the 10th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, there was a war between Nimrod, king of Shinar, and Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. Remember, Chedorlaomer left Nimrod's kingdom. Yeah, I guess that's a good word. Left his kingdom. He was one of his princes. He left Nimrod's kingdom to form his own kingdom. And now, look what's happening. There's war breaking out between Nimrod and Chedorlaomer. Abram fell and Chedorlaomer. And Nimrod came to fight with Chedorlaomer to subdue him. Oh, look what it says. For Chedorlaomer was at that time one of the princes of the host of Nimrod. And when all the people of the tower were dispersed, and those that remained were also scattered upon the face of the earth, Chedorlaomer went to the land of Elam and reigned over it and rebelled against his Lord, his Adon. And in those days, Nimrod saw that the cities of the plain, Nimrod saw that the cities of the plain had rebelled. He came with pride and anger to war against Chedorlaomer. So here's somebody rebelling against Chedorlaomer, who he was under his tribute, his authority, and Nimrod likes that. Oh, he's got servants rebelling against him. Maybe this is a good time to attack him. Well, look what happens. And Nimrod assembled all his princes and subjects, about 700,000 men. Almost 750,000 men. And went against Chedorlaomer. And Chedorlaomer went out to meet him with 5,000 men. What is that? 140 to 1 odds. And they prepared for battle in the valley of Babel, which is between Elam and Shinar. Do you remember where that's at? Let's go there quickly. Here is Elam. Here, I can turn on the boundaries here. Political boundaries. Here we are. Here's Chedorlaomer's land, and here is Babylonia under the control of Nimrod. Amraphel. They're going to battle right here, right on their borders, between one land and the other. And all those kings fought there. And Nimrod and his people were smitten before the people of Chedorlaomer. People, you read these words, and they're loaded. An English word is loaded. We're talking about men. Men are the ones who fight in the wars, not the ladies. When we talk about people, we're talking about men almost always in Torah. We just see this over and over, but you got to open your eyes so that you see it. It's not about the ladies. The ladies do not follow Yehovah. They follow their man. We're going to see that over and over and over again. Wait till you see what it says about the men of Sodom and Gomorrah. And there fell from Nimrod's men 600,000. He came with 700,000. He came back with 100,000. And Mardon, the king's son, fell amongst them. He lost even his son. I say good riddance. And Nimrod fled and returned in shame and disgrace to his land. And he was under subjection of Chedorlaomer for a long time. What does that mean? He's going to pay Chedorlaomer tribute. Thank you, Carrie. And Chedorlaomer returned to his land and set princes and his host to the kings that dwell around him, to Arioch, king of Elazar, title, king of nations, king of Goyim. And he made covenant with them, and they were all obedient to him. They're setting us up right now to understand what's going on in Genesis chapter 14, verse 1 and 2. Same four kings. Arioch, king of Elazar. Where's Elazar? It's a city. Here. Here's Elazar, right here. This is Elazar. I guess that's his thing right there. Arioch, king of Elazar. There must be somebody named king of nations, Goyim, somewhere in this area. I don't even know where it's at. But we're talking about Nimrod, Amraphel, king of Babylon. King of Shinar. They call it Shinar. So it gets confusing when we talk about Amraphel, king of Shinar. We don't realize that that's Nimrod, king of Babylon. Same man. But now you know the rest of the story. And it was the 15th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 70th year of the life of Abram. Okay? This is so amazing. When I read this the first time, have you ever read the prophecy? Here, I'm going to go. Well, here, I got it right here. Let me just open this up. Oh, it may not open up. I'm going to have to open up in it's too big. I'm using just a little teeny small screen and not my full screen for the video. So let me go to my notes here, and I have a note here called 430. There it is, 430 years. I'm going to open this up so you can see it nicely. And here's the verse that I want you to see. It says, now the sojourn of Israel's seed who lived in Egypt was 430 years. Here, I bet I can even do this. How's that? 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, on that very same day, it came to pass that all the armies of Yehovah went out from the land of Egypt. What day was this? It was the 15th day of Aviv. Okay, the first day of unleavened bread. On that very day. When does Yehovah come to meet with his men? Sabbaths and feast days. Okay? Basically 2 times. New moons is another time when Yehovah meets with his people. Okay, so we know that when Yehovah is meeting with Abram, it's probably going to be one of those kinds of days. A Sabbath, a new moon, or a feast day. What day is it now in Exodus 12? We just said it was the 15th day, the first day of unleavened bread. Look at what it says. By faith he dwelt in the land of promises in a foreign country. Sounds like me in Egypt. I'm dwelling in this country, the United States, as in a strange country, dwelling in tents under the big top with Isaac and Jacob and the heirs of him of the same promise. Well, so I tried to figure this out. And there's ways to do this, 430 years. How do we know time periods? And when I read this, that in the 70th year of the life of Abram, let's read what it says again, because I want you to see. Maybe I didn't even read all the thing, but I want you to see this. It was in the 15th year of the life of Abram, dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 7th year of the life of Abram, Yehovah appeared to Abram in that year. And he said to him, I am Yehovah, who brought thee out of the land of Ur-Kasdim, to give thee this land for an inheritance. Now therefore walk before me and be perfect and keep my commands. For to thee and to thy seed I will give this land for an inheritance, from the river Mitzrayim unto the great river Euphrates. And thou shalt come to thy fathers in peace and a good age, in the fourth generation, and the fourth generation shall return here in this land. Okay, here we are, the fourth generation returning here to this land. We were supposed to come out of, I want to say, Babylon. He says, return to this land, coming out on the very same day to go to where? When we left Egypt, where were we headed? To Canaan. We were going to take Canaan, weren't we? Okay, this is the day that this prophecy is being fulfilled. It says, Abram built an altar, called on the name of Yehovah, who appeared to him, and he brought up sacrifices upon the altar, slaughters, and olah upon an altar to Yehovah. And Abram returned and went to Haran. So now, let's go back to this, because this is very important that we understand, because many people will tell you that we were in Egypt for how long? Well, we just read the verse.
430 years.
That's what they think. That's what they think. They think that we were in Egypt for 430 years, because it came to pass at the end of 430 years. They assume that we were in Egypt for 430 years. I'm here to tell you that's not correct. Let's take a look at something that I developed just for you and for me to answer those questions. Inquiring minds want to know. I wanted to know how this all worked out. And this verse and one other verse put it all together for me. And they both came from Yasher. Abram received the prophecy, Yasher 17, and it was in the 15th day of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which was the 70th year. Okay, this is what we're talking about, the 70th year of the life of Abram. 70th year. And Yehovah appeared to Abram in that year. Okay, well, that's what we just read. So that's the start of this prophecy. Now he's going to go to Haran. He's going to dwell in Haran for 5 years, from 70 to 75. So Abram departed departed as Yehovah had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Okay, now 25 years old, or 25 years later, when he is 100, so we can add 25, we know that Isaac is going to be born. Isaac is going to be born when he is 100 years old. When Isaac is 60 years old, Jacob's born. When Jacob comes before Pharaoh for the first time, Joseph's already been there for a number of years, 17, so I think it's close to 17 years. He comes before Pharaoh. He says he's 130 years old when he comes before Pharaoh, so we can add another 130 there. But then look what it says at the end of Yasher. And at the end of 210 years, Yehovah brought Israel's seed from Egypt with a strong hand. And Israel's seed traveled from Egypt and from Goshen and from Ramses and encamped at Sukkoth in the 15th day of the first month. There's where we are, the 15th day of the first month. 430 years old, or 430 years to the day. So, what does that mean that Abram was doing 430 years before to the day? Can you think?
Unleavened bread.
He was eating unleavened bread and keeping the time of life. That's what I think. Yehovah was meeting with him on that day. Now we're going to see in Genesis 17, same day, he would have been celebrating the first day of unleavened bread. Well, the time of life would have been the night before. It's the start of the seventh day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But we're going to see the time of life, Abram doing it, when he's 99 years old, when Yehovah again is meeting with him on this same day. Oh, it's happening over and over and over again. We've got to be alert and aware to these kinds of things. And don't build a theology based on one verse for 400 years to the very same day and think that we were in Egypt for 430 years. Doesn't make sense. What do we know? We know that Levi was what age? And he had Kohath already when they went into Egypt. Okay, so Kohath has already been born. Kohath is going to have Amram, and Amram's going to have Moses. You're not going to get 400 years into that, folks. It doesn't work. Jochebed is going to be Moses' mother. She was in uterus when they went into Egypt. I'll show you that in chapter 46 of Genesis. She wasn't even born yet, but she was counted. Well, that says a lot for birth control and abortion, doesn't it? They counted her even though she was in uterus, in the womb. So she's his mom. How old was she? Was she 400 years old? No, 430 years. She would have to be 350 years old when she had Moses. Is that how old she was when she had Moses? No, she was 135. Yeah, we got to figure this stuff out. It's important for us to understand. Don't build a theology based on one stupid verse. You just don't know enough. There's more to the story. Okay, going back. So now, Yehovah gives him this stuff, tells him that the land is going to be his from Mitzrayim, the river Mitzrayim. Where's that? Probably the Nile, onto the river Euphrates. All that land's going to be his. He's on the other side of the Euphrates right now. No, he's not. He's back in Canaan right now. But in the next verse, and here it is, and at that time Abram returned and went to Haran. Now he's back on the other side of the Euphrates. And at that time Abram returned and went to Haran to see his father and mother and his father's household. And Abram and his woman and all belonging to him returned to Haran. All belonging to him. Okay, all the people who are with him belong to him. And Abram dwelt in Haran 5 years. You know, when Yehovah raises up the 144,000, in a sense, each one of those men is going to be like Abraham, a lord. Everybody who comes to them are going to be under their authority. They're going to be one of the great ones that we've talked about in the past. What did Yeshua say? He said, great are those who do and teach even the smallest things. They're the great ones. Do you want to be the great ones? Or do you want to be the great one's servants? Or do you want to be left out completely and allowed to perish from the earth and from eternity? If you're not one of the great ones, make sure you join one of the great ones. But don't bet that they're going to be raised up in your lifetime. You may have to be one of the great ones now. Okay, so here he is, father's house. Abraham dwelt in Haran for 5 years, from 70 to 75. You know, I had another note up here that I wanted to read to you. What did this one say? Oh, yeah, I guess I was just using this verse to talk about this line upon line thing that we were talking about to understand the 430 years. The verse goes like this. Whom will he take? Here. Whom will he teach knowledge? Whom will he make to understand the message? Those just weaned from milk? Those just drawn from the breast? For precept must be upon precept, and precept upon precept, line upon line, and line upon line, and line upon line. Here a little, there a little. This is how we understand Yehovah's word. This is how we get true understanding, which leads eventually to wisdom. Okay, so return to the land of Haran. And many of the people of Haran, look at, he already had souls that he made from Haran before he went in the first time. Now look what it says. And many of the people of Haran, about 72 men, followed Abram, and Abram taught them the instructions of Yehovah and his ways, and he taught them to know Yehovah. Wow, isn't that awesome that he's teaching them to know Yehovah? Teach him his ways and know Yehovah. But here's another 72 men. So we had 300, plus we had the souls that he made from the land. Now he's got 72 more men with their families joining him. Do you see how the numbers are growing exponentially? He's been in the land now for 20 years. From 55 to 75. How many sons were born to these servants in the last 20 years? 2, 3, 5? 3 years from now, he's going to have 318 men from his house, trained men born in his household, go to war against 800,000 men coming from the north. How many people are leaving with him right now? We're talking huge amounts. I think over 1,000 people are in his, what did we call that? Entourage. That are leaving with him as he goes back to Canaan. Back south. Well, it tells me we got to go to Genesis chapter 12. So let's stop here. We're going to go to Genesis 12. Here we are. Let's go back to the Bible. And here we are in Genesis 12. Oh, I didn't know I could make that big too. That's kind of neat. Wow. Learn something new every day, don't you? Okay. Genesis 12. Now Yehovah. Oh, here, I got to make it big, don't I? Now Yehovah had said to Abram, get out of your country. It says country. Country. Why do they do that? Look at, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. You know what? I don't like this big like this. It's almost too big. Here's what it actually says. Then Yehovah said to Abram, I said probably in a vision, get out from thy country. Look at the word that they're using. It's Eretz. But they make it country. And then the next time they use it, it says from thy family, from thy father's house, to the land. To the land. It's the same word. How come they make one country and one land? He already left Nimrod's kingdom when he went to Haran. But now Yehovah is telling him to leave thy land. Abram has land in Haran. He's the son of Terah. Of course he's got property there. He's got investment property, apartment buildings, homes, crops, land for dwelling with your cattle. Leave your land. Leave thy land is what it says. Go, get out. It says from thy land. Here, this says from. This says thy. Right here, this little thing here. It says thy. Thy land. From thy land. From thy family. From thy father's house to the land that I will show thee. Abram is leaving what we would call his worldly wealth. Yes, he's got servants. He's bringing a lot of stuff with him. He's bringing his servants. He's bringing his women. He's bringing all their families, and he's bringing his cattle and his silver and his gold. But he's leaving his land, he's leaving his family, and he's leaving his father's house. Okay? It's not about country. Don't confuse it with country. It's thy land. It's your stuff. He's leaving his stuff. Maybe he sold it off, turned it into liquidated it. The house that he's been living in for 30 years, almost had it paid off. Now he's going to sell it to somebody else and take the money and run. That's what I would encourage y'all to do right now. Liquidate. Rent from someplace else. Become a dweller in the land. Get out from your country, from thy land, from thy father, from thy family, and from thy father's house to the land that I will show thee, and I will make thee a great nation. I will bless thee and make, look what it says, thy name great. Ooh, do you want to be one of the great ones in Yehovah's kingdom? This is how you become one of the great ones. You leave thy land, thy father's house, thy family, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Let's go to verse 2. I will make thee a great nation. Yeah. Here I put, if he understood the promise that Yehovah had made him about getting a great nation, in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. This is seed that's coming from Abraham. He would realize if Yehovah is a man of his word, which I believe he knows Yehovah is a man of his word. He already said, within 3 days, if I do not destroy these idols, he knows how important the word of Yehovah is, swearing in his name. Yehovah, when he says it, it's going to come to pass. But sometimes we forget. Sometimes we fall back to our flesh. And in this chapter, he's going to fall back to his flesh also. But he wouldn't have to if he didn't. He couldn't be hurt until he has a firstborn son. Because it's got to have seed presented first before he can die because of Yehovah's promise. I will make you a great nation. Verse 3, I will bless those that bless you. He says, I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Okay? All the families of the earth? How about all the families of the earth that come to him? All the families of the earth who follow him? I put all the families. He's talking to men. Men are the leaders of the families and those whom they lead. And be blessed. And to be blessed, they must follow him. I put there's a lot of people who were not blessed by Abram, by Isaac, by especially Jacob and Jacob's sons. They weren't blessed. They were killed. He says, I will bless those that bless you. I will curse those who curse you. It's not, don't consider yourself blessed unless you're going to follow the ways that Abraham followed, doing the things that Abraham did. 800,000 men will contradict this idea that just knowing Abram, you're going to be blessed. There's going to be a lot of Canaanites who are not going to see that blessing either. I will bless you. I will bless those who bless you. I will bless. No, this all says thee. Get out of thy country. I will make thee a great nation. I will bless thee. I will make thy name great. These are all thys and these and thous. I will bless those who bless thee. I will curse those that curse thee. And in thee all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram departed. Move this up. as Yehovah had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. Well, here is part of the timeline of Abram. In my notes, if you go to my topic notes under A, and you guys, you can have these notes. Oops, that's not the A I'm looking for. This is the A I'm looking for. Abram's life. Here's the whole timeline for all of Abram's life. He lived to be 175 years old. A lot went on in Abram's life, but we were cheated in Torah because we missed almost the first 75 years of Abram's life. We don't know anything about. And much of even his latter years, we don't know that much about. But Yasher fills in the rest of the story for us. This portion here, I just pulled out. He takes Sarai at 50. He lives with his father Terah in Babylon for 2 years. Then he flees and goes to Haran for 3 years. He's in Canaan from 55 to 70. At 70 now is where we're at. No, 70 is where he was spoken to. Then he lived in Haran for 5 years. Now in 75, he's going to leave yet again. This is where he is right now. And here, look at it. 1 year later, no, the same year, very same year that he leaves, he's now going to go to Egypt. Oh my gosh, there's a lot going on in Abram's life, and I don't think we realize how fast this is coming down. Well, let's take a look at it. So Abram departed as Yehovah had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. So now Lot's going with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran the second time. Then Abram took Sarai, his woman, and Lot, his brother's son, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran. So this tells us that we had people acquired in Haran. Do we have any idea that we're talking about all his possessions, all they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran, that we are talking about 1,000 people in all? Do we have any clue as to how big this group is that is leaving Haran? I don't think we do. And they departed to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land. Look at this. They came to the land of Canaan. No, to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan. I'm sorry, I get distracted when I was looking at my other note at the same time. Sometimes it's hard to do two things at once. I'm a man. Men can't do that. That doesn't work like that. So here it is. Second time they're leaving. How many are going out? I had 300 men that came with them from Babylon. Okay, these men came with him from Babylon 23 years before. How many sons, let's put an L-I there, how many sons have they had since then? Okay, they've had daughters too, but we're not interested in the daughters. We're interested in the sons. So it says, and Abraham went forth from the king in peace. And many of the king's servants followed him, and about 300 men joined him. Here it is in 18 years later. And this skips the people of the land because there's people of the land that joined him just 2 years later. 2 years later. Many men joined themselves to him from Haran 18 years ago. How many sons have they had? Here it is when they joined him. And the people of the land of Haran saw that Abraham was a good and upright with Elohim and men. And Yehovah, his Elohim, was with him. And some of the people of the land of Haran came and joined him, and he taught them the instructions of Yehovah and his ways. And these men remained with Abram in his house, and they adhered to him. Now, here's 72 men, okay? This is between 70 and 75. He had more men join him. Well, we just read that. I'm not going to read that again. So now it says, we know that 318 men born in his house will fight and kill 800,000 men in just 3 years when Abram is 78 years old. Okay, he's got to have, I'm guessing he has over 1,000 men, women, and children with him right now. And many of these men have been with him for the last, 75. He got him when he was 52. That's 23 years. How many men were born in that 23 years? It's got to be gobs. This is a roaming city, a mobile city that is moving with Abram. Talk about defense. Do you think they can defend themselves from the people of the land when you have that many men working with you? I don't think that's a problem at all. Especially being Abraham, who Yehovah promised to protect. I will bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you. Then Abram took Sarai, his woman, Lot, his brother's son, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired. All the possessions they had gathered, the people who they acquired in Haran, and they departed to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan. Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem as far as the Terah tree at Morah. And the Canaanites were then in the land. Well, yeah, of course they're in the land. Shechem, let's show you where Shechem is at. Right. And Succoth is my point here. We're going to look at Shechem. Here's Shechem right here. There's Mount Ebal, Mount Gerizim, Shechem in the middle, and he's right here where my cursor's at. If you're looking at the video, it's a hand. But he's right here. This is the place that we're talking about, where the Terah tree is. Terah tree is an oak. I'm going to show you a picture of a very old oak. These are oaks that grow and become ancient. We're talking 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years old. This is what we're talking about. What's he going to do when he gets here? Look what he does. Then Yehovah appeared to Abram. Appeared. How is he appearing to him? I had a nice thing that I put together about appearing to Yehovah. This is the land, this is the land where the Terah tree at Morah. This is the land that Jacob's going to buy from Shechem later on. So it says, then Yehovah appeared to Abram and said, to your seed, descendants, seed. This is what we're talking about. Men. Okay, ladies don't own the land. Men own the land. To your descendants I will give this land. And he built an altar to Yehovah, who appeared to him. How did he appear to him? He had to appear to him in a vision. Seed, here it is. This says thy, right here. And Zerah is the root in the middle. Seed. Your seed. These are men. These are always men. This is the first time Abram builds an altar to Yehovah. Well, it's the first time he builds an altar to Yehovah in Torah. It's not the first time that he builds an altar to Yehovah in Yasher. But this is at least his third altar. He built when he was 55, when he left for Haran. In fact, he was in this very same place when he built his first altar. Then he built when he was 70, just before he was leaving Canaan. He did it when he was coming to Canaan. He did it when he was leaving Canaan. I wonder if all those were on the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. I wonder. 15th day of Aviv. And now he's building one, in the present case, 20 years, built one at the same place as he did 20 years before. Look at what our next verse is in Yasher. I just want to point this out to you. I think it's important for us to see this. And Yehovah, here it is. He's building an altar. And Yehovah appeared before Abram. And in those days, Yehovah appeared to Abram in Haran. And he said to him, well, I guess this is in Haran that he's doing this. Behold, I spoke to thee these 20 years back, saying, 20 years. So he's building an altar once again. I think it was the same place, but this doesn't appear to be the same place. And Abram in Haran appeared to Abram in Haran, and he said to him, Abram has left, hasn't he left right now? Because we're talking about the terebinth tree. So maybe it's not the same place, but it's still a very similar place. But here he's building an altar in Haran. So that means there's 4 altars. Because now we got this one, and then almost immediately we're going to have another one in Canaan. Wow. So there's a lot more going on as far as building altars than we see here in Torah. And Yehovah appeared to Abram and said to his seed, I will give this to your seed, I will give this land. And there he built an altar to Yehovah, who appeared to him. And he moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent. It makes it sound like he's got one tent, doesn't it? His tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And he built an altar to Yehovah and called on his name. Here he is building an altar again to Yehovah. Let's take a look at where he went to. It always helps us to see. Here he is in Shechem. He went from Shechem to right down here between Bethel and Ai. There it is, Bethel. It says Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. So he's in between those 2 dots, in a sense, in the mountains. Really, he seems to be following this trail, which is the Central Ridge Route, calls it on this map, going through the land of Canaan, down towards Egypt. Following the crest. We have the Rocky Mountain Crest Trail. Is that what we call that? Mm-hmm. Something like that. Yeah, this is the thing that's crossing through that particular mountain peaks. Okay. Let's reduce that. Built an altar. Yeah, this is at least the 4th altar. This is going to be the 5th altar, I think, and maybe even the 6th. So Abram journeyed, going still toward the south. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to dwell there, for the famine was severe. So he keeps going south, but he's realizing that he can't get provisions for his whole entourage. Remember, he's got a large group of people with him. So now he's going to go down to Egypt. And it came to pass, when he was close to entering Egypt, that he said to Sarai, his woman, indeed, I know that you are a woman of beautiful countenance. His woman. It doesn't say wife. It says his woman. Here it is. This is Isha, right here. Look, I can hover over the top of it. Aleph, Shin, and Hey, Isha. But this has got the Vav after it, which makes it his Isha. That's what a woman is a man's Isha. His woman. He said to Sarai, his woman. Indeed, that's why I always change this when I can from wife to woman. Wife is going to put you into a different frame of mind and give you different understandings than if you understand it as his woman. You want to deepen your understandings? Refine your vocabulary to what the word actually says, and it's going to help you. It's going to help you see things that you will miss otherwise. Indeed, I know you are a woman of beautiful countenance. She's 65 years old, but she is a beautiful woman. Therefore, it will happen when the Egyptians see you that they will say, this is his woman, and they will kill me, but they will let you live. What is Abram doing right now? He's giving in to the fear of men. Okay? What does Yehovah tell us to do? He says the fear of man brings a snare, but those who trust in Yehovah shall be safe. Does he have to worry about, I guess as you're entering another land, all of a sudden, he's got a big entourage. Most of these little cities in Canaan aren't going to bother him. But now he's coming into a kingdom that's enormous. Where's he met? It says he goes south and goes to the kingdom. I have to wonder, where is the entrance of this kingdom? Look at here's the kingdom as it stands right now in Abram's time. Let me turn this to 30. Look at this. Here's the brook of Egypt. Here's the Besser brook. But Egyptian property is going to go even further than that. He says he's going south. Remember, he was right here in Bethel. There's Bethel. Came down from Shechem to Bethel. Now he's continuing south, going to Egypt. Here's Egypt way over here. Where is the border patrol? When you're coming into Egypt, where is that at? I have to ask myself, where was it that he got stopped? How far did they get before they got stopped? We're going to see here, let me turn this on. Begin the borders. It helps us to see this. Here's political borders. Look at that. This is Egyptian domain all the way up to here. The whole Sinai Peninsula. And then here is Egypt. I got a hunch right here would be a natural border, which is where the Suez Canal is at. Here's the they call it the Red Sea, but it's not. It's the Suez. It's the Suez. What do they call that? The Gulf of Suez. There you go, Gulf of Suez, and the Suez Canal runs through here. I would think this would be the natural border for protecting Egypt. To me, that would make sense, wouldn't it? To utilize the rivers and the what I just call that, the Gulf. The Gulf. Well, so he's heading toward Egypt, and he's going to be stopped. Yasher has so much more to say about this. Please say that you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, that I may live because of you. But if Abram understood the promise that Yehovah had made him, he would realize he was invincible, invulnerable. He can't be killed. So it was when Abram came into Egypt that the Egyptians saw the woman. And she was very beautiful. Well, we're going to see he tried to hide her from the Egyptians in Yasher. And the princes of Pharaoh also saw her and commented to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. And he treated Abraham well for her sake. He had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, females. Look at that. Sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male and female servants. And then they put female donkeys. I always wonder about how they choose the order on these things. Aved, males. Let's learn some Hebrew. These are things that we have to watch for. When we talk about female servants, we're talking about Amah, which is a female servant, a generic term. But we also have another one, Shifka. Shifka is a female servant that is closer to the family. You'd almost call her a maid servant. One's a female servant, maybe one's a maid servant. she's one that's closer to the house, maybe is helps the women dress and takes care of the home, cooks. Those are shifka. But Amma is a female servant, adult age, able to have babies. That's what an Amma is. Amma, I guess is how we want to say it. Shifka and Amma. Two different kinds. But men are always called Aved. Aved. Say it. Aved. Learn this word. This is an important word for you to learn. We're talking about shafakot. Shafakot. That's what we're talking about. Shafakot. And this is Avedim. It's plural form. Shafakot is the plural of Shefka, and Avedim is the plural of Aved. Remember, Aved, when it says servants, we're always talking about men. Men. You can double check it by just looking at the Hebrew and seeing if it has this word Aved. Again, it says Abed. We're talking about a soft B, which is Ved. Aved. It's Aved. Okay. So here he is. He's adding more people to his household, isn't he? Treated him well for her sake. He had, well, it says he had, but is he giving those to Abram? I think he is. He treated Abram well for her sake. It doesn't say he gave them. It just says he had. He had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male and female servants, female donkeys, and camels. Okay, I assume he's given them to him. But Yehovah plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's woman. Okay, that's all it says. Why did he do that? We don't know why he did that, but Yasher's going to tell us why he did that. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this thou hast done to me? Why did thee not tell me that she was your woman? Why didn't you tell me that? Why did thou say she is my sister? I might have taken her as my woman. Now therefore, here is thy woman. Take her and go thy way. So Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his woman and all that he had. Well, we don't even get hardly a clue from this story what actually happened here in Egypt. But now we get to learn the rest of the story. Let's finish this chapter today. In those days, Yehovah appeared to Abram. He's just now leaving Haran for the next time. He just built an altar to Yehovah. The 72 men have joined him. No, he's building an altar right now. And he said to him, Behold, I spoke unto thee 20 years back, saying, Go forth from thy land, look at it, it says, from thy birthplace. Go forth from thy land, he's in Haran. That's not his birthplace. That doesn't even make sense. His birthplace was in Babylon. He was born in Babylon in his father's house in Nimrod's kingdom, Babel. And from thy father's house to the land which I have shown thee. Look, it says from thy land. They got that right. Remember, it said from thy country in Genesis. But now it says land. To the land, thy land, the land, exactly the same wording, which I have shown thee, to give it to thee and thy seed, for there in that land I will bless thee and make thee a great nation. I will make thy name great. There it is again. Thy name great. And in thee all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Well, some will be blessed. Some won't be blessed. Now therefore arise, go forth from this place, thou, thy woman, and all belonging to thee, and every one born in thy house. Now, there's a whole bunch of people that have been born in his house. And all the souls thou hast made in Haran. How do you make a soul How do you make a soul?
Into the reality of the creators.
Yes, Carrie says, bring them into the reality of Yehovah's word. I think that's what it's all about. I think it's about bearing spiritual men, the souls thou hast made. I want to make souls. I want to win souls for Yehovah's kingdom. All the souls thou hast made in Haran, and bring them out with thee from here, and rise to return to the land of Canaan. So go back to Canaan. And Abram arose, took his woman Sarai, and all belonging to him, all that were born in his house, and the souls which he had made in Haran. And they came out to go to the land of Canaan. And Abram went and returned to the land of Canaan, according to the word of Yehovah. And Lot, the son of his brother Haran, went with him. You know what? I used to have thinking that Noah, and that's why I put this in pink, that Noah somehow was doing something wrong by taking Lot with him. Of course, my understanding was that Abram was going out with him and Sarah. That was pretty much it, him and Sarah. Okay, I had no clue there was a whole entourage going with them, because I never really thought about the 318 men who were born in this house who went out to fight. And so I had this idea, and I think it's a false idea, and that's why it's still in pink, that somehow when he took Lot with him, that he was disobeying. I don't think he was. I really don't think he was. Why would Lot be any different than any of the other men who went with him? Well, we're going to see Lot was different than any of the other men who went with him for one very important reason. We'll see it next week. That is, he would not obey Abram. I think all the other men who went with him did obey Abram. And it was because of Lot's bad attitude in disobeying his Adonai, his elder, his brethren. He's a brethren, same household, but remember, he's Abram's nephew. But he's doing his own thing. He's not obeying Abram the way he's supposed to. And maybe it wasn't so much that Lot went with him, maybe it was more so that Lot wouldn't obey him. Could that be? I wonder. And Abram was 75 years old when he went forth from Haran to return to the land of Canaan. I look at the life of Abraham overview. I've got it in my I showed it to you. I've got it in my eSword. I want to give you my eSword notes. I gave, who was it? I gave Scotty my eSword notes this week, and Helen got my eSword notes this week. They're available to you. All you have to do is get that team viewer and give me a call. I'll be glad to help you. Well, we have two more verses. I've got 1257, so we're in good shape. And he came to the land of Canaan according to the word of Yehovah to Abram. And he pitched his tent, and he dwelt. Let me read that again. I said the word of Abram. It's the word of Yehovah to Abram. And he came to the land of Canaan according to the word of Yehovah to Abram. And he pitched his tent, and he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, right outside Shechem. And with him was Lot, his brother's son, and all belonging to him. So Lot apparently didn't belong to him. And Yehovah again appeared to Abram and said, to thy seed I will give this land. And he built an altar to Yehovah who appeared to him, which is still to this day in the plain of Mamre. All right. Well, that's it for today. Hey, thanks for joining me. Next week, we're going to talk about Rikayon. He is going to be the first Pharaoh. They're going to name Rikayon this new name, just like they gave Nimrod the name Amraphel. They're going to give Rikayon the name Pharaoh, and everybody after him is going to be called Pharaoh, who rules in Egypt. Oh, it's really interesting to see how all this all comes down and what happened, and what happens when Abram comes into their land. Oh my goodness. Corruption going on in Egypt. Well, thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next week. Love you tons. Bye now.